Today in Nashville music news, it seems like everybody is talking about Ingrid Andress and her rendition of the national anthem at last night's Major League Baseball game, Home Run Derby. If you haven't heard, it wasn't the best rendition. She came out later saying, "Hey, I was drunk, I need help, I'm checking into rehab." First and foremost, I think it's brave when someone checks into rehab and admits they need help. And my heart goes out to her. I sincerely hope she gets better. And one thing I've always told people about coming to Nashville is how great the community is. I've seen musicians help me out, help other people out so much, and be so selfless because there's enough work here for all of us. And when one of us succeeds, all of us succeeds. And similarly, when one of us falters, I kind of think all of us falter, and it's the community's job to pick somebody up if they're in a tough spot. And through my limited time here, I've been here a little bit more than 2 years, one thing I notice is that the higher somebody gets up on the chain, the less grace they are offered. And that's understandable to a certain point because the bigger the stage, the bigger the pressure, the bigger the expectations. That's the job. One thing I've noticed is that some people really love to pile on when somebody's down. And I heard someone make a comment today which really resonated with me. It's Keo Stroud. He's probably one of my favorite drummers here in town, and he's just a really positive, sweet guy. And I'm gonna paraphrase here, but he said something to the effect of, if everyone out there invested that energy they have into criticizing somebody when they mess up, if instead they invested that energy into people when they're on their way up, into supporting people, into cheering others on, this world could be a lot different. And that really struck a chord with me, no pun intended. I really don't know Ingrid. I don't listen to her music. I wasn't tuned in to watching a home run derby. I mean, honestly, how many people out there were watching home run derby and were really anticipating the national anthem? I'm guessing not many. And do you really have that vested interest in someone's performance at home run derby? Or do you just like to see somebody stumble? It's a genuine question. I think we all deserve some grace and compassion. We all falter in life. I don't know this person's specifics. One thing I do know is that when I see other musicians online piling on, making jokes, saying they could sing better than that, I often wonder, what's your goal? Like, that's an honest question. What is your goal in saying that? Because it's really easy to say it when you're in the nosebleed seats, but when you are front stage and center, it takes a lot to get to that place. There's a lot of pressure involved, and you're under a magnifying glass. I'm not giving anybody a free pass who stumbles, but I also am saying that it's understandable. But more importantly, I want to ask the other musicians who are criticizing, who are making jokes, what is it accomplishing? Is it doing anything for you? Is it doing anything for the music community? I believe as musicians, we should have a high standard, that performing for people is an honor. If somebody's giving you their free time, their money to see you play, yeah, you want to honor that and do your best job. I also know that people make mistakes and life is complex. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. The main point though is this: when I see other musicians so quick to criticize somebody who is a little bit higher up on the ladder than them, I take notice. I know that when we're in our certain circles, we like to support the people who are close to us. We like to root them on. If someone who plays in the same gig circuit as us, if they go through a hardship, I know lots of people in that circuit will help somebody else out. And Nashville's a great place for that. I've also seen a lot of the cattiness as well, a lot of the jealousy. That's human nature. It's easy to laugh or point fingers or make accusations. But one of the great things about Nashville is that the musicians here really support and care for each other. And I think we should be extending that care and that grace when another performer goes through a rough moment. Do we want to punish them or do we want to support them? And have you been following this person's career the whole time, or are you just catching them at one moment and you're joining in on the crowd, making fun, making jokes, making memes? And you can say, oh, she's a big star. she needs to have thick skin or she won't notice, she won't care. Maybe that is the case, I don't know. But I know people do care and they have feelings. I also know how you speak about other people speaks more about yourself than that person. And there are times when criticism is absolutely warranted, where criticism needs to be pointed and needs to be constructive. And then there's times when you're just being mean, because you can. Emotionally speaking, it's empty calories. It's not serving anybody any good. And as a professional musician, I would really like to encourage other professional musicians to think about the words you use and the tone you use when you speak of your fellow musicians publicly. It doesn't matter if that musician never sees or reads it. If you have constructive criticism, great. Maybe use that as an example to help other musicians and suggest some solutions. But if you just want to pile on somebody, it does have a toxic effect cumulatively. When we see another musician getting made fun of, getting dragged through the mud by other musicians, we sometimes have that in the back of our head, like, oh, I better not mess up or that's going to happen to me. And you have that fear driving you, and that fear can lead to a lot of bad things. So instead, I would encourage you to really invest that energy into helping others out. And I'm not saying this just as some kind of kumbaya statements. I think it's also great for yourself as a person. Energy attracts energy. If you're positive and uplifting and supporting and encouraging, oftentimes you attract people who have that same energy. Likewise, if you have just negative, heavy, critical energy, you can attract that. But also carrying that energy with you, it can be exhausting and draining. If you disagree, I would love to hear what your thoughts are and how we can better direct our energy, how I could better direct my energy in this case. But I would really encourage other musicians on any scene, think about the words you use, think about your intentions. Are you just talking dookie on somebody else because it makes you look cool? Are you just saying, I don't care, even if you're a drunk, a singer can sing? Okay, so you're telling me that you don't think she can sing. Cool. But what does somebody not being able to sing have to do with you singing? And this isn't just for Nashville. This is for any city, any market. Really think about the energy you're putting out into the universe and the energy you're going to attract. Kicking someone while they're down, okay, it's not a good look. Even if you don't know them, what do you think that tells other people about yourself? And all of this matters because the music industry is very small and you never know who might be listening. I think every conversation we have, every online interaction is a chance to tell people who we are. So if you're a working musician wanting to work more, what do you want to tell people you are? A person who is thoughtful and supportive and cares about their fellow musician? Or do you want to tell them that you're a person that's going to criticize someone at their darkest, roughest moments? And I used to be that person who was always overly critical. I was that way because I was jealous and envious that I wasn't in that place in my career that that person was. And I thought, I can do that. Why does that person get to do it and not me? And as I've matured, I realized that there are lots of steps you have to take to get to that place on stage, under the spotlight. And sometimes that road can be rather harrowing. And sometimes the pressure really builds up. And at some point you break down. And that's understandable because this is a tough business. Us as musicians needn't make it tougher on each other. And I think about that now when I see somebody up there on stage doing a gig that I want. Instead of me being jealous or critical of them, what can I learn from them? Let me tell you something. A lot of things in the music industry, despite what you think, they're not simply handed out. Maybe for a few it is, but what does that have to do with your career, my career? So I'll leave you with this parting thought. Think about the darkest moment you've ever had as a musician. Now imagine if that moment was beamed into millions of living rooms across the country, streamed to millions of phones on the internet for people to laugh and look at. We've all had rough moments. Just think about what would happen if yours became a viral sensation, especially when you're struggling with some pretty rough stuff. So I encourage all of you to be kinder to each other out there, be more compassionate, and also think about how your words online and in person reflect on you. Thanks for watching.